Bombshell body cam video just dropped in the case of the former worship leader and American Idol contestant accused of killing his wife inside their home as their kids slept in the middle of the night. Caleb Flynn claims that a burglar broke into their house and killed his wife in their bed.
We'll be close to the house. All right.
Step forward.
You want evidence.
What's that?
Even though he is emotional and beside himself when police arrive, officers are not buying his story.
Come on, honey.
I'll show you why they believe this church-going family man is an alleged killer. We're on the case presented by Law and Crime.
In the quiet city of Tipp City, Ohio, the Flynn family lived a life that, from the outside, seemed peaceful and ordinary. Their home sat in a calm neighborhood where late-night noise was rare, and most residents felt safe enough to leave their porch lights glowing through the night. People who lived nearby knew the family as friendly and deeply involved in their local church community. At the center of that family was Caleb Flynn, a man who had once appeared on American Idol and later became known in his church as a worship pastor and musician. His wife, Ashley Flynn, was a respected teacher and middle school volleyball coach who many students admired for her kindness and patience. Friends described Ashley as someone who was always smiling, the kind of person who encouraged others and made students feel confident on and off the court. Together, the couple were raising 2 young daughters, and from the outside their lives appeared stable, faith-centered, and full of promise. Neighbors often saw the girls playing outside, while church members remembered Caleb leading worship music on Sunday mornings. To most people around them, nothing about the Flynn household suggested trouble. But sometimes the most shocking stories begin in places that look perfectly normal. In the early hours of February 16, 2026, that peaceful image suddenly shattered. At around 2:30 in the morning, a frantic 911 call came from the Flynn home. Caleb's voice on the phone sounded panicked as he told the dispatcher that someone had broken into the house. According to him, an intruder had entered while the family slept and shot his wife. While the dispatcher tried to calm him down and gather information, patrol cars were already rushing through the dark streets toward the house. If you enjoy real investigations and detailed true crime stories like this one, take a moment to like the video and subscribe to the Real Case Records channel so you never miss the next case we uncover. Within minutes, flashing red and blue lights illuminated the quiet neighborhood. Officers approached the house carefully, unsure if an armed intruder might still be inside. What they were about to find in that bedroom would transform a supposed burglary into a mystery that investigators would soon begin to question. The flashing lights from police cars cut through the darkness as officers arrived at the Flynn home. The neighborhood that had been silent only minutes earlier was suddenly filled with urgency. Officers approached the house cautiously, unsure if a dangerous intruder might still be inside. The frantic 911 call they had received suggested that someone had broken into the home and shot a woman while her family slept. Standing outside the house was Caleb Flynn, the husband who had made the emergency call. His voice had sounded panicked on the phone, and when officers encountered him in person, he appeared shaken. According to his story, he had discovered that someone had entered the house during the night and shot his wife while their 2 daughters were asleep in nearby rooms. Inside the bedroom, officers quickly located Ashley Flynn. She was lying in bed, unresponsive. Paramedics arrived shortly after and confirmed what no one wanted to hear: Ashley had died from gunshot wounds. The scene was heartbreaking. Only hours earlier, the home had been quiet and ordinary, and now investigators were standing inside what looked like the aftermath of a violent crime. Because Caleb had reported a break-in, officers immediately treated the situation as a possible home invasion. Patrol units searched the surrounding streets and yards, checking if anyone suspicious had been seen running through the neighborhood. Investigators looked for signs that someone had forced their way into the house. At first glance, parts of the story seemed possible, but experienced detectives know that even the smallest detail can reveal whether a story is true. As investigators began examining the home more closely, subtle questions started to appear. Certain things about the scene did not quite match the chaos usually left behind during a burglary. If you're following the investigation closely so far, this is a good moment to pause and hit the like button. It helps more people discover real case records and allows us to continue bringing you detailed true crime stories like this one. Back inside the Flynn home, detectives carefully studied every room, every door, and every object that might reveal what had really happened that night. What they were about to discover would slowly begin to challenge the story of a random intruder. As the first wave of emergency responders stepped back, detectives began the careful process of examining the Flynn home piece by piece. In cases like this, every object matters. A misplaced item, a small scratch on a door, or even the position of furniture can reveal whether a story matches reality. At first, investigators treated the situation as a possible home invasion, just as it had been described by Caleb Flynn. But the deeper they looked, the more questions began to appear. Inside the bedroom where Ashley Flynn had been found, detectives carefully documented the scene. Near the bed, officers discovered 2 spent shell casings on the floor. Crime scene technicians photographed the area and collected the evidence, noting the exact positions of everything around the bed. The location of the casings suggested the shots had been fired from inside the room, not from a distance or through a doorway. Meanwhile, other investigators examined the possible entry points around the house. Since Caleb had said an intruder may have come through the garage, detectives turned their attention there. What they noticed immediately made them pause. A large refrigerator had been positioned directly in front of a side door leading into the garage. The placement made it extremely difficult for anyone to open that door from the outside. That detail raised the first serious doubts about the burglary story. Then another clue appeared. Inside Caleb's pickup truck, parked in the garage, detectives noticed that the center console was open. According to Caleb, this was the place where he normally kept his handgun. The observation led investigators to believe the weapon used in the shooting might not belong to an unknown intruder at all. As the evidence started to form a clearer picture, detectives began quietly shifting their focus. At this point in the investigation, many viewers often start forming their own theories. If you have thoughts about what might really have happened that night, feel free to share them in the comments and let others know your perspective. And if you're interested in more real crime investigations like this one, don't forget to subscribe to Real Case Records so you can follow every detail as cases unfold. Back at the house, investigators now faced a difficult possibility. The story of a random break-in might not be true at all. As detectives continued piecing together the evidence, the direction of the investigation slowly began to change. What had first appeared to be a tragic home invasion was now starting to look very different. The physical details inside the house did not fully match the story that had been reported in the early morning 911 call. Investigators began taking a much closer look at the timeline and statements given by Caleb Flynn. The position of the refrigerator blocking the garage door, the shell casings found near the bed, and the open console in the truck where a handgun was normally kept all created a pattern that detectives could not ignore. Piece by piece, investigators worked to reconstruct what might have happened inside the house during the quiet hours of that night. Instead of searching for a stranger who had broken into the home, the focus of the case was beginning to shift towards someone already inside it. News of the investigation quickly spread through the community. Many people in the area knew Caleb from church services where he had led worship music, and some remembered seeing him years earlier when he appeared on American Idol. To them, the idea that he could be connected to such a crime felt almost impossible to believe. But detectives rely on evidence, not reputation. After reviewing the information gathered from the scene and conducting further questioning, authorities announced that they had enough to move forward with charges. Caleb Flynn was formally arrested and charged with murder, along with additional charges related to assault and tampering with evidence. The announcement stunned the local community and quickly drew attention far beyond the small city where the crime had taken place. In court, Caleb pleaded not guilty and told the judge that he wanted to be able to care for his daughters. For many people watching the case unfold, the situation was both confusing and heartbreaking. On one side was the memory of Ashley Flynn, a teacher and coach remembered by students and colleagues for her kindness.
Caleb, I need you to stand up for me, bud. We'll be placed under lattice. All right.
Step forward.
You want evidence?
What's that?
Turn
What
around for me,
evidence?
sir.
We're not going to discuss that here. Okay. There's
Put your
a time
hands
and a place
together
and
for me, like
Did Patrick call you?
What's that?
Did Patrick call you?
Now, I didn't know that he was calling me,
His lawyer's supposed to be calling him right now.
so. Okay, yeah. We'll get in touch with him.
I'm being cordial and being cooperative, so I'm not being.
You want to give him a hug real quick? And go ahead and do that.
He's fine. He's strong. He's strong. I'm sure it'll come up. There's absolutely no evidence. They know how much you love that woman.
For many residents, it was difficult to accept that a tragedy so severe had unfolded inside a home that once seemed completely ordinary. Friends, students, and colleagues remembered Ashley Flynn as someone who had dedicated her life to helping others. As a teacher and middle school volleyball coach, she had influenced the lives of many young students who now struggled to understand how such a kind and encouraging person could suddenly be gone. Community members shared stories about her patience with students and the positive energy she brought to the classroom and the volleyball court. For them, the loss felt deeply personal. Memorial messages and tributes began appearing as people tried to honor her memory and support her family during an incredibly painful time. Meanwhile, the legal case surrounding Caleb Flynn continued to move through the court system. Prosecutors believe the evidence collected from the scene tells a clear story, while Flynn has maintained his plea of not guilty. As with every criminal case, the responsibility of determining the final truth now rests with the justice system and the evidence presented in court. Investigations like this often remind us how complex real-life cases can be. At first, the situation appeared to be a random burglary, but careful examination of the crime scene slowly revealed details that detectives believed pointed in a completely different direction. It shows how much patience and attention investigators must use when searching for answers. If you followed this case from beginning to end, thank you for staying with us through the story. Be sure to like the video and share it with others who are interested in true crime investigations. And if you haven't already, subscribe to Real Case Records so you don't miss the next case we explore together. Behind every real case are real people whose lives were forever changed. For the family and friends of Ashley, the hope remains that the legal process will eventually provide clarity and justice, while the community continues remembering the life she lived and the positive impact she left behind.